Thanks,
They're marching in the streets for increased pay. You're going to have to take a position on this. What is it?
Yeah, look, I understand their frustration. No one likes industrial action, but as you said in your introduction, when you've got the cost of living going through the roof, when petrol is going up, interest rates, energy prices, as well as tolls, except the ability to pay for all of those essential costs of living, it's no wonder that hundreds of thousands of people in the public and the private sector have had enough. We'd like to see a productivity-based bargaining system where we can actually negotiate with the public servants in this state to get a better deal for the taxpayers and a fair wage deal for those public servants.
How could you quarantine a wage increase to the public sector, no matter how laudable? How can you quarantine that without it leading to a wage explosion, wage increases across the board?
Well, the only way to do it is to get productivity in the system. That's how you can have consistent and steady wage growth without it leading to unfair and
how do you get that?
Seismic inflation in the system. I think you need a productivity-based negotiating system. So for many of these public sector unions, it's not simply income and wages that they're concerned about. They're also concerned about classification, the number of nurses, for example, on wards. They may be concerned about the conditions in the workplace. And if the government had the ability to negotiate not just on wages, but on those other things that public sector unions are asking for, we think we can get better public services, a fair wage deal, and the government can get some much needed productivity into the system.
What would you as the alternative Premier say to business and employers when the share of GDP currently going to wages is at its lowest point since records began in 1959? If that's in need of correction, what correction would you put in place?
Look, in some instances, that's happening in any event in the private economy. You're seeing a huge labour shortage right across the private sector in nearly every category within the private sector in New South Wales and Australia, whether it's transport and logistics, retail, hospitality, or even in the public service itself. Just this year, Alan, the first police academy class had to be cancelled because there wasn't enough recruits to start joining the New South Wales Police Force. So that will lead to some wage pressure and wage increases within the private economy. We're seeing that already in the public sector as well. And obviously, you can't have a situation where everything is going up. Fresh food, interest rates, petrol, energy, tolls, fines, fees, charges, everything in the family budget, but not provide the ability to have families meet those financial obligations. That's what's happening right now in New South Wales.
You mentioned before nurses. You're saying what the union wants re-nurses, 1 nurse per 4 patients, is not affordable.
Yeah, we're concerned about it, and we've started negotiations and talks with the Nurses Association. Obviously, we want to make sure that any policy that we take to the next election is affordable and that the taxpayers of this state, when they look at Labor, say, you know what, they will implement these policies. That means when I make a commitment, it's fully costed, it can be delivered, and of course it's affordable. So if we're going to make changes that not just this government or the next government, but the one after that and after that as well,